This video is made by the students of Shahid Sukhdev College of Business Studies, University of Delhi, under the guidance of Dr. Narendra Kumar Nigam, with the purpose of spreading financial literacy amongst Indians for ensuring better financial decisions in India. The topic for this video is to help our viewers decide financially as well as for practical purposes whether it's better to buy a house or rent a house. Throughout this video, we have discovered each aspect of this decision with two dimensions. First, a financial one, and second, a practical one. We have made certain assumptions for the purpose of our analysis, which we will clarify as we explain them. Also, a point to be noted here is that we are also including certain exceptions and anomalies, which might result into some changes in our conclusions and analysis. Hence, we have outlined their impact as well. Let's start with the first part of our video, where we compare the cost of buying a house and the cost of renting a house. In this particular analysis, we make certain assumptions which need to be clarified. But before that, we need to learn what a rental yield is. It is the annual rent divided by the property value. Historically, the rental yield in India have been about 2% of the total value of the house. First, let's consider the assumptions that we're making. Firstly, the first assumption here that we need to consider here is while you are buying the house, the financing of the house primarily comes from self-financing or bank loans. We're not considering the cases where people might be borrowing from private money lenders, relatives, friends, etc. etc. The second assumption that you need to consider here is that the banks at any given point provide a maximum of 80% of the total value of the house. So meaning, if your dream house costs, let's say 1 crore, then be it private or public, the bank will only provide rupees 80 lakh as loan and you have to arrange the rest 20 lakh on your own for the down payment. Now extending this analogy for further explanation, since the loan is worth 80 lakhs, we fix the interest cost at around 8% and the rupees 20 lakh is coming as down payment. The loan period is 20 years and hence the EMI is costing around 66,000 as indicated in our EMI calculator. Now considering the average rental yield of India to be approximately 2%, the yearly rent lands to be around 2 lakh, which is 16,000 a month approximately. Basing our costs on this example of ours, the cost of buying a house include firstly, the down payment. As you guys would already know that you are required to pay a certain fixed percentage of the total house value as down payment while buying the house. Some people do it by direct transfers. Some do it by mortgaging some assets of theirs such as jewelry, such as cars, etc. etc. A noteworthy point here is that we are not just considering the lump sum payment cost of the down payment, but also the opportunity cost lost here. Secondly, the interest cost. This is the periodic loan repayment amount that you have to pay to the bank. However, a lot of people perceive the interest cost as wrongly. So considering our dream house in our dream house example, if you take a loan of rupees 80 lakh at the rate of 8%, then people think that, oh, 8% of 80 lakh is 6 lakh 40,000. So if it's 6 lakh 40,000 divided by 12, 53,000 is my monthly expense, which I can afford. But a major error here is that while paying back loans, not only are you paying the interest, but you're also repaying the principal that you had borrowed. So you can see in this particular snapshot of the EMI calculator here, the EMI will be around 66,000, which is larger than the interest cost that you thought. The third cost is the maintenance cost. The maintenance cost is the common expenditure incurred in the upkeep of the house. It includes things such as renovation, repairs, plumbing costs, etc. Most housing experts believe that the upkeep cost is approximately 1% of the total value of the house. Now moving on to the cost of renting a house. The major expenses involved here are firstly the rent payment itself. Secondly, the security deposit. This includes the lump sum payment, which is a common practice. The lump sum payment for security deposit is approximately 3 months of rent in advance. So the lump sum amount for 3 months is again a cost that needs to be considered here when you're renting a house. Now, comparing these two using a standard example of the 1 crore dream house, the EMI payment for the house was 66,000 as compared to a rent of 16,000. So there is a 50,000 surplus between the renter and the buyer, which inclines us towards renting. You can invest this money in the equity market and earn better returns over the period of 20 years in which you are paying back the loan. Now, a very natural question that might be coming into your mind is that what if the rents increase? The 16,000 rent that I'm paying today, what if all landlords in my neighborhood decide to increase the rent simultaneously? The answer still remains the same, simply because if all landlords increase their rents, the demand for rented accommodation will fall and the people will start buying houses again, hence leading to the rents falling again, coming back to the normal. Now that we have compared the cost involved in renting and buying, let's talk about returns in buying the house, which people mostly ignore. Now, if you buy your dream house for rupees 1 crore, then the rental yield will be rupees 2 lakh per year. That means if you have bought the house, it will take you 1 crore divided by 2 lakh, that means 50 years to recover the cost of the house. Here we are assuming that the rent growth rate and the property price growth rate are more or less the same, which is a fair assumption in the real world. So while the buyer has to pay a greater monthly expense, they also have a greater period for payback, which ensures that the person who buys the house is losing in both of these situations. Talking about the practical and the emotional aspect of this decision, there are several factors guiding our decision. Let's say migration. There could be a situation where you're not sure that whether your job involves you to be transferred into a new city every 2 to 3 years. In this situation, it might not make a whole lot of sense to buy a house and settle at one place at the cost of your career. If you're still family planning, you don't know the type of house you will require 5 years down the line. It might be the case that you have kids or your parents come to live with you, and then the house that you live in feels small, and hence you regret the house that you bought. But a third aspect of the emotional value sides with buying the house. Because when you buy anything, there is always a sense of ownership and a sense of emotional attachment. It gives you a sense of belongingness not only to the locality, but a sense of belongingness to the street that you live in or the city that the house is situated in. This value might be intangible but cannot be replaced. Now we are admitting that there are certain exceptions in our analysis. These exceptions are the situations that we need to discuss as we move towards a conclusion. It is important to consider that what if? Firstly, if the interest rates suddenly drop, then the EMI amount will also reduce, especially in the initial part of the loan repayment period. This could lead to a change in the decision. However, the concern about the low returns due to low rental yields still stand. Secondly, if you have a lot of money for down payment, the loan value ceases to be very small. It is so small that it could be the situation that the EMI repayment is at par with the rent that you're paying. This might be attractive for some buyers, but again, the concerns about not getting good enough returns are still deterrents enough for the majority of the buyers. At the end of our video, we can conclude that it is better to rent a house in your 20s and your mid 30s. Because of the financial benefits that this decision provides, it is always better to rent a house in situations when the EMI is at a lot of surplus as compared to the rent that you're paying. Though there are certain emotional factors such as sense of belongingness and the sense of ownership that might take the lead for some people, but overall rationality dictates otherwise. This brings us to the end of our video. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that we were able to help some of you take the decision of buying or renting a house, which has a lot of importance in anyone's life. Thank you so much.